So joining us for this one, the Athletics' Adam Crafton and journalist and former Arsenal midfielder Adrian Clarke. I have to be honest here, Adrian. We're going to do Declan Rice a little bit later on. And originally, the whole podcast was going to be Declan Rice. And now we're doing this bit, have Arsenal blown the title? I have to say, my heart sinks at this stage of a season when you do a have so-and-so blown the title, when we've still got virtually 2 months to go.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I sincerely hope not. I think the whole of the Premier League, not just Arsenal fans, want a title race. I think,
Tottenham fans don't, Adrian.
This is true. This is true. Look, how many times has a team, go on a winning streak of 15 straight to go on and land a crown? It doesn't happen very often, does it? So I'm sure there are a few more twists and turns to come. But Arsenal, if they are to stay in it, they're going to have to play an awful lot better than they did in that final 75 minutes at London Stadium. It was champagne football, wasn't it, for 15? And then the fizz completely went out of the display. So, lots of work to do.
I do think it's very difficult when you look at Man City's fixtures. They have pretty straightforward fixtures. I think if they could choose, a run in to have, I don't think it would be far off what they've got. But they've not blown the title. I mean, people are talking about like blowing the title, dropping point, throwing away leads. Okay, but they are points at Anfield and West Ham away. Like for any other normal title race that doesn't have this kind of freakish Pep Guardiola team in it, you're kind of just like that's a normal thing that can happen in April, right? You have a couple of weekends where it just doesn't quite go right. You have a penalty against you. You've got a few injuries. The rhythm's not quite there. But because we've kind of normalized that you need 98 points to win a Premier League title now, this mini drama feels like a crisis.
Is there anything that you've seen, though, Adrian, that is a pattern that would be slightly concerning? And look, I realise they've thrashed Palace and they've thrashed Leeds, but actually, if you go back to the beating of Bournemouth at the beginning of March, where Bournemouth scored 2 at the Emirates, and now you've had Liverpool. I'll throw them in this whole thing, even though it's Liverpool. But you've had Liverpool who scored 2. You've had West Ham who scored 2. Is there a pattern?
Yes, there is. Yeah, because the team aren't defending as well as they were. They're giving up too many big chances. 8 last week at Anfield, which is actually a record for Arsenal in the Premier League. So that isn't good. Obviously, the lack of clean sheets at Emirates Stadium has been concerning all the way through. Luckily, the team's been able to score 3-4s on a consistent basis. But no, the team are playing with a little bit less control. I think that much is clear to see. Obviously, across the last 2 games, that's there for all to see, because they've been outshot quite heavily. Liverpool created so much in that last game. West Ham outshot Arsenal in this. It's a problem. I think William Saliba is a big loss. Obviously, having 2 of your back 4 missing at once, as was the case at London Stadium, isn't great. Saliba is a great passer as well as a quick defender. So I think he's very difficult to replace. And Zinchenko adds a lot of control to the team. And that was missed badly, I thought, against the West Ham team that was surprisingly aggressive. They went and pressed, didn't they? They really fancied it in the game.
But he wasn't missed badly. He wasn't missed badly in that first 30 minutes, was he? I mean, Tierney performed that role as if he was Zinchenko in that first 30 minutes. And actually, for half an hour, they were absolutely fine, in the same way they were at Anfield as well. So is there what do? Do they relax? They can't. They're professional footballers. They're not going to think it's 1 at 2-0.
No, I think that you could accuse the team of having complacency, couldn't you, across the last 2 games? For sure, because they quietened the crowd at Anfield. They quietened the crowd at the London Stadium. They had both teams exactly where they wanted them. In a way, both had full control of both contests. And then they stepped off the gas. And that isn't what City tend to do. It isn't what champions tend to do. So it's a learning process, isn't it? This is a team that is brand new to this environment. They've never been there before, playing under this pressure. So yeah, there are signs of cracks, no doubt about that, because I think if you're Mikel Arteta, you're looking for your team to really take a team apart when you get them in that position, and the exact opposite happened in both games. So that is a worry. It's probably normal because of the youthfulness of the team and of the manager as well, who probably will look at his subs across the last 2 games and think, did I get those right? Did they affect those matches in the right way? And I think he'd be right to question himself on those. So look, they're learning as they go along, but that's been the case all season.
I think that's really harsh. I think that's really harsh on players and Arteta. I think if you actually, if you look at the last couple of games, I thought actually at Anfield last week, even at 2-1, at 2-2, I thought Arsenal were okay. Like, I mean, they nearly won it at 2-2. They went back and went again. I thought the thing that surprised me yesterday was their reaction after 2-2. There was all that kind of incision and confidence kind of went out of the team a little bit. That was the only time this season, I would say, that I've looked at them and thought, you might not quite be good enough to go and get the 98 points that you need. But I do think it's harsh, this kind of this sort of shift towards mentality and
Liverpool,
like
in the Liverpool game, I was very happy with 80% of that performance. I thought they were excellent, very assured. But at West Ham, I just don't think that this Arsenal team is quite good enough yet to not be at 100%, to not be at that sort of boiling point where everybody is working feverishly without the ball, and then in possession, everyone's working incredibly hard to support.
But then we're asking for a team of the youngest team in the league to be perfect, to be 100% every single week, and that's just not human. No, unfortunately.
I'm not saying that
I get the kind
every game 90 minutes. I'm just saying that I would say for at least an hour of the game at West Ham, they treaded water, and I think that was slightly worrying. But look, I'm not going to. But also, I'm the last person to be harsh on this Arsenal team.
I know.
Incredible.
I know.
And actually, Adrian, that's what I was going to say. And you say that they're not quite good enough to control a game for the whole 90 minutes, or for 100% of the time. That's all right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine, considering where they have come from to where they are. That I think, if you're being reasonable, that is perfectly okay.
Yeah, it's just in the context of this season that we're talking. But you're right. Over the last 5 seasons, the closest that Arsenal have got to the eventual champions is 24 points. That's the closest. The range over the last 5 seasons is between 24 and 43 points. So where Arsenal are at the moment is amazing. And we shouldn't be too harsh on them. But I think that we should be able to say that it was a disappointing performance, because it was. And I think Arsenal will be kicking themselves big time that they didn't put that match to bed against West Ham.
Did you see the quotes from Odegaard after the game, basically saying, they were dead and we kind of let them wake up and come back into it? And Arteta was probably the most brutal I've heard him be about his own players, actually, sort of saying, sloppy passes and we didn't get going and we sort of thought it was quite comfortable. So, no, I mean, there is definitely that sense of appraisal, I think, within the group. The other thing that struck me yesterday was just how light actually the depth of the squad is when you really get beyond the kind of the best 13, 14, 15 players and into, Holding, Tierney, and then also when you really need to go and change a game to win a game at this point in the season. It's what we said last week on the podcast. Liverpool had a better bench than Arsenal last week to bring on Thiago and Darwin Núñez and other really talented players to affect a game. And Arsenal just, Trossard's a really talented player, but he's not a player that comes on and you think, oh God, as an opponent, like, shit, what are we going to do about him, right? And Nketiah as well. They're good players, but if you look at what Man City are bringing off the bench, if they need to go score a goal late on in a game, it's just not quite the same.
I think on Trossard, it might not be the best example. I mean, the cross, since he's joined, I think it'd be hard pushed to find a player that's created more goals than Leandro Trossard. I think he scored a hat-trick at Anfield earlier this season. I think he is someone that Arsenal can turn to from the bench. It's probably the others that I would say, like a Fabio Vieira or a Reece Nelson, and he came up trumps with a goal against Bournemouth, of course. But yeah, City have players of a higher level than those two for sure. And this is what Arsenal fans have been saying all season, guys. It's been sooner or later, City's strength and depth will make the difference. And maybe that's coming to pass now. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Saliba and Zinchenko were big misses in that game.